Watch that brim, Matt.
Sorry, my brim's fully extended.
You're all hat and no cattle.
It's like, this asshole was in here swinging his brim around.
So yeah, this is our Halloween episode, and Matt, you're dressed as
Alan Grant from Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
Halloween. Dean Cundy shot Halloween, and he also shot a little movie called Jurassic Park. So in honor of Halloween cinematographer extraordinaire Dean Cundy, I'm dressed up like Alan Grant from Jurassic Park. The very smooth connective tissue.
Yeah.
Been swinging this brim around.
What else did Dean Cundy work on? I guess those are some pretty big credits.
The Thing. He shot The Thing. Shot Back to the Future.
Okay.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So like tons of Roadhouse. I think he shot Roadhouse.
Roadhouse.
Oh my god. Hey, Ian's going down the Roadhouse down there. And yeah, Halloween. I think the movie looks like $1 trillion.
Okay, so yeah, like this is actually kind of a special episode because I mean, you love the Halloween series. You love sort of the slasher genre.
Yep.
I hate the slasher genre. Like, I mean, I've got nothing against it. Like, as a thing, like it's fine or whatever. For me personally, I just can't watch them. I was just sort of traumatized by them as a kid. Seeing those VHS box, the VHS box art in the store, and just like as a little kid and being, kind of like my head spinning, just like imagining what kind of like horrors happen in those movies.
Yeah, like I'm gonna doff this brim here. Very dangerous.
Right? Yeah, it's razor sharp.
I'm a huge slasher head. I love the Friday the 13th series as well, and I love the Halloween series. Mm-hmm. I'm just a big fan.
So I've never seen this before. This was my first time seeing it, and I kind of
awesome.
Like I was like I wanted to see Halloween Ends. I was just kind of curious. New Halloween movie, and Jamie Lee Curtis coming back for it and stuff. So, but I thought like. I got to see the first one. I can't just see. So, but I wasn't sure. But it's like the Halloween season's coming around. It would make a perfect episode.
Yes.
So I gave it a shot. So this is almost like as I was watching it, I thought we probably you let me borrow your DVD. I was thinking when I was watching it, we should have done like a reaction video where you have like a GoPro or something pointed at my face as I was watching it, because that would have been pretty entertaining. Because I have these like movies so built up in my head from not having seen them, from never having seen them, and just having like vague ideas just from like popular culture of what's in them. So I probably had like a deer in the headlights kind of look, and like I'm watching it, my heart's going, and I'm scary. I'm in it, and and I had it like with my projector and stuff, so it was like the big screen experience. And I mean, the cinematography looked like $1 million. Like just
perfect
the
flick,
picture,
perfect movie,
like
perfect
the film stock and everything, the 70s era. It's kind of like perfect for horror, and just like it's beautiful. Like it's the daytime shots and things. They just look amazing. They have this golden look to them. Like you'd probably have to spend all kinds of money to get something to look like that. Like this is a fairly low budget movie. You'd probably have to spend all kinds of money to
get that, achieve that, and. Then you got the awesome, like, locked onto the car shot.
Yeah, I get, again, like, as, like, a Tarantino fan, I'm seeing all this, like, stuff that influenced Tarantino, and also, like, they're in the car, and you hear, "Don't Fear the Reaper," playing for, like, 2 seconds, and it's like, oh, that was in Scream, because I saw a little bit of Scream, I saw, like, a little bit of the beginning of Scream, and that song was in there, so I'm like, okay, that's where that came from. And then with Tarantino... It's got all these like amazing POV shots from inside the car.
Yes.
And so like it's the same shots that you see in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's like you're inside that car and you're looking out the side window, you're looking out the front window. And then Death Proof is like the other one. Like which Death Proof is like that was Tarantino's slasher movie. Like it was different enough from the slasher genre for me to like not to enjoy the movie. It has the thing like in Death Proof, she's like walking around and she keeps seeing that guy, keeps seeing his car and stuff, and the same way Jamie Lee Curtis keeps seeing Michael Myers around the town. And
Death Proof, best nacho eating ever captured on film.
and yeah, like you were saying, the camera like locked on the front of the car, pointing at the, it has like the same kind of shots, and
like everything works in it.
Yeah, it's minimal. Like very little happens. Like there's a lot of space and very little is explained. But it's kind of perfect. And for suspense, I mean, that was like the most stressful part of this was the suspense because these sequences go on and something horrible is going to happen, and it keeps not happening, and little incidents happen that kind of ratchet it up, and then when it finally does hit, you're like kind of relieved. It's like, oh, thank God, because I was terrified. Like it's less like the attack is like less scary than the waiting for it.
So jealous that you got to see it for the first time again. Like it's a master work in suspense, and like it makes you scared even in the daylight.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering because like you've seen it a million times. I don't know how old you were when you saw it, but you're probably a kid when you saw it.
Yeah.
So like all that stuff, like the scares and the surprises have already happened for you. So now it's like if you watch it, for the millionth time, it's kind of like you appreciate. You're like, that's really good work, but you're not like. But like I was having like the visceral experience.
That's so awesome.
And you think about the predecessors of this, and like we can get into some more of that. But like it's got kind of like Jaws because it's got like the small town, and like nobody's believing, that the seriousness.
The evil's coming.
Yeah,
that's me, Dr. Loomis.
Yeah, exactly. And nobody's, and even like Dr. Loomis, is very simple. You don't get a lot of like backstory on him. He's just got his role to play, and the babysitters.
Oh yeah,
it's very like archetypal.
This movie, it's like a razor blade. Mm-hmm. It's just like I think of it's like a razor blade. Like there's no fat on this movie.
Yeah, really efficient. And like too much explanation would have
that's what will happen down the road.
Right, exactly. Yeah, further down. Like I kind of don't want to watch the other ones because like I know they'll come up with like a story of like what was happening here and there.
I mean, I hope they keep. This is great. There he is. There he is at the stop sign in the background.
The opening scene, like you get
the
close call and stuff. And that was like, I could see Tarantino coming up with Death Proof thinking like, because the first half of the movie, Michael Myers is in the car.
He's driving
and so it's like, oh, what if Michael Myers, instead of like waiting till night to kill people with a knife, what if he used the car to like do vehicular,
There, you know what? Michael, we joke around about that. In Halloween 5, Michael does use the car.
Okay, yeah.
So he is chasing people down in a field. It's hilarious.
You keep expecting, like, it's kind of makes me think like Castlevania, where there's like daylight and then things get real scary at night. Like the game gets harder at night. And so like you have all these encounters with Michael Myers and like nobody gets hurt. Like there's like the truck driver or whatever where he like takes the guy's clothes. So that's the outfit that Michael Myers is wearing. If we got like a close up of Michael Myers maybe in brighter light, we might be able to see the guy's name tag on it,
just
Mac
like Biff or something.
Yeah, Biff, yeah.
Some of the stuff that makes Jaws great was like accidental too, with like the shark.
Yeah, the not working.
Like classic stuff like that. With this, So, like, there's a producer, his name was, like, Irwin Yablans.
Okay.
And it was his idea for Halloween. He had worked
with
John Carpenter on Assault on Precinct 13. And he's like, I want to make this movie. It was, like, The Babysitter Murders was working title.
Right, yeah.
So then he approaches Carpenter. Carpenter's working on a movie called Someone Is Watching Me. So while he's waiting, Deborah Hill, I think it was his girlfriend at the time, he might have been his wife later, but she wrote the first draft of the screenplay. And then this Irwin Yablans, his other input was he wanted, because of budgetary reasons, for the movie to take place like one day, over one like night, and that helps the movie. And that like instead of being sprawling, it's like focused.
It's confined, and the sort of confinement is scary. And that has become sort of like a classic structure where a narrative takes place over like the course of a day or the course of 2 days or something. This horror like is low budget cinema. It's kind of like what you do. It's like, okay, we don't have a big budget. What can we do? It's like, well, let's make a horror movie because they tend to be profitable. The audience tends not to mind the low budget. In fact, the low budget tends to
Help.
enhance it. Like we've talked about that, where like something like on a blurry VHS is like scarier than if it were, like crystal clear. POV, and so again, it's like Psycho, where the audience is like there's a voyeuristic element, and the audience is a participant, and you get that right in that first scene. It like takes place in the '60s, and you're seeing it from the point of view of the kill of Michael Myers, and you're looking at things like you're looking through the window through a gauzy.
I
thing
love
at
it.
The whole and then. And again, like my heart was kind of in my throat watching that whole sequence because it is such a buildup. And like, you see like the arm reach for the knife, and it's like this like clown wrist, and it's like a kid's wrist. So it was like, oh, this is like young Michael. Like maybe if like since since this is like a very famous movie, I kind of know about like Michael Myers was a kid, he killed people, and then he blah blah blah. So maybe if I didn't know, it might have been a shock when you find out when like the mask comes off. It's like, whoa, it's a kid. But yeah, so you see that, and then he puts the clown mask on, and then like he says, "Hey doll," or what? "Hello doll." What does he say to her? Right before
I can't remember.
I think it was like, "Hey doll." I didn't make it out exactly, but it sounded like it was saying, "Hey doll," like he was doing some kind of like clown character or whatever before he starts stabbing.
Speaking of clowns, once again we talk about like the happy, not accents, but like everything lines up perfectly. The mask. We love the iconic
Michael Myers mask. Yeah.
And we had mentioned before in like the previous Halloween episode. So a lot of the directors from the next movies in the series worked on Halloween. Like Rick Rosenthal worked on Halloween. He did Halloween 2. Tommy Lee Wallace, he was the production designer on this. Mm-hmm. And he was charged with, I believe, getting the mask for Michael. And originally, it was supposed to be like an Emmett Kelly like...
Okay. The sad clown.
The sad clown to kind of juxtapose with, he had that clown mask on when he was a kid.
Right.
So he would have the clown mask when he was like an adult.
Yeah.
And it had frizzy hair, and it was so close, but they were like, hey, this mask is scaring everybody around, so they took like votes on what mask should be.
Like it was too... Well, yeah, if they had gone with the Emmett Kelly mask... I probably wouldn't have watched this. Like that would have been too much.
That's fucked up, isn't that? Actually,
yeah. No, I mean you can't argue with the classic, the Michael Myers mask. Like it is just like it's like a spaghetti western.
Yeah.
There's all this space. There's like the space, like physical space, but then there's also like the scenes have a lot of space, a lot of breathing room, and then the characters are archetypes, and they're not super well fleshed out, but like they do what they need to do, and it's. And the mask is like that too, because the mask is like you're not sure exactly what it is, but it's like okay, it's a mask, it's scary, and that kind of gives it a power too.
It does have a power because I can't. It's like they should have done. I don't know. I don't think MythBusters has done this, but like the mask from this one, they've tried to replicate it, and there was something happening, or size wise, or something happened with the Halloween 1 mask that like. They couldn't replicate it.
They couldn't get it. Something about the exact formulation of the rubber that they used or something.
Yeah, and like the pain and like just what they did to it. Because if you look at like, I wish there was like a lineup of like all the Michael Myers masks. They just can't, some of them are like really weird. Mm-hmm. And this one's clearly, I think we've mentioned this also, not just on the Halloween episode, but on other episodes where William Shatner demands residuals.
They should get him to play Michael Myers. Or has he ever had a cameo in a Halloween movie?
I don't think so. In the Rob Zombie Halloween 07, Mickey Dolenz is in it in a cameo.
Like there's the title sequence of like the jack-o'-lantern, and the jack-o'-lantern slowly gets closer.
It.
Like that's so great too. And I'd kind of seen that like when I was taking like film classes. I remember being like in the editing room, and like everybody's working on their projects, and you kind of like hear what other, and like a guy was, I guess he was doing some kind of thing where he was taking, I don't know, he's doing something with the opening of Halloween. So I like kept hearing it a million times.
That's so cool.
But like I saw it and I was kind of like, okay, that's interesting. But like actually sitting down and watching it, it's like my memory of it was of like sort of a scarier jack-o'-lantern, but it's actually like a funny jack-o'-lantern, like the clown or whatever.
It is.
He's got like a big smile on his face, and it just like slowly gets closer. And that theme, I mean, that theme song
Good
is
grief.
like, that goes in the time capsule,
Send it to the aliens.
Yeah, that's like, one of the great things ever made, great pieces of art.
Yeah, because I'm like, there's like another Halloween movie or somewhere down another one that I'm like, thank God they got rid of that music. Clearly, the worst part of the movie was the score to Halloween.
It sticks with you too. After watching the movie and getting like real creeped out by it, then like it's kind of like, you know, at night or like someplace dark or like, you know, I just, you know, in my head I'm thinking, and then it's like, oh no.
Play that at like we'll step outside
Right.
the night.
Yeah.
I'll like wet my pants.
Yeah, that could be a challenge. We do an episode where we point like GoPros at her and like go out, you know, in like the
forest.
woods behind
The
Total Recall Studios. And just like see who gives up first. That'll be our challenge.
I'm like crying like the Blair Witch Project.
This kid who Jamie Lee Curtis is babysitting, I thought like he was dressed up as Evel Knievel, but he's like an astronaut. And like yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis. This is her first role. First role, and it's like okay, we're making a voyeur slasher flick. Let's get Janet Leigh's daughter to be in,
Yeah, and then Loomis, Dr. Loomis. I think there's a character in Psycho
called Dr. Loomis. Yeah, I mean this obviously like Psycho is Psycho is kind of the progenitor of the slasher film, and it has all the elements. It has like sort of like a sexual element to it, and voyeuristic, and where you take on the point of view of the murderer.
Killer.
It's also like the 70s stuff is just so great, and it's like every single kid has like the salad bowl haircut.
Oh, of course.
That, like every kid had back in the 70s.
I had it up until like 5 years ago.
Michael Myers' point of view, and you hear the breathing in the mask like.
Oh yeah,
and it was making me think of like meditation or something.
Yeah,
like, he's like very chill because he's like counting his breaths. And...
He's like sitting like cross-legged. Yeah. He's like, what's his mantra? There's like a navy outfit in the background.
Yeah,
looks like a kid on the Cracker Jack.
Yeah, that navy outfit. I guess maybe that's like the mom's clothes.
Yeah,
'cause it's kind of like a 70s. Like a Mary Kay Cosmetics or something. The Avon lady would wear it. Or...
Any noise you hear outside, any weird bump in the night, you can just be like, "Oh God, it's Michael. Michael Myers is up to his old tricks."
Also, these interiors, these like 70s interiors are so homey and nostalgic,
very
cozy, feel very Pittsburghy. Like kind of like a Pittsburgh house, like an old school Pittsburgh house. So it does. It makes it extra scary because like these horrible things can happen in like a very familiar, cozy environment. They're watching The Thing from outer space, and it has that same, the lettering as the thing we just saw. The thing that we just saw. So like there you go. And I don't think we mentioned it in the episode, but man, how like that they did the lettering for The Thing by like burning a garbage bag or whatever. And man, what a miracle that the burn just happened to form the word The Thing. Did you ever see the show? It's like a Netflix show called Love. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Love. It's really good. I highly recommend it. I enjoyed it a lot. But there's an episode where they meet the guy who played Michael Myers. And they're like...
Nick Castle.
Yeah, and they're so excited. They're so jazzed. And... I wasn't sure if it was really the guy who played Michael Myers or if it was one of those kind of things where it's like nobody knows what he looks like, so you could get anybody.
Yeah.
But anyway, like they meet him, they hang out with him for the day, and like they kind of can't get rid of him. Like they're like, he's getting to be a bit much. So then they kind of like sneak out, and get away. But I did wonder, like, is that really the guy? And there's a scene like towards the end of the movie where she's struggling with Michael, and like his mask kind of comes off just for like a second, and it's dark, and he pulls it back on. It kind of looked like the guy, so I'm assuming they got the actual guy.
Yeah,
that's a great touch too, because just the way this movie is, I could see them going the entire movie, and you just never see what he looks like under the mask. But like you get it just for a second, just in the dark, and it was just so perfect.
The Nick Castle also directed The Last Starfighter.
Okay.
and the Dennis the Menace John Hughes movie. Okay,
I love The Last Starfighter. So Michael Myers directed The Last Starfighter.
Myers directed The Last Starfighter. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, see, I'd be more excited about that. Yeah, I love that. We'll have to do a Last Starfighter episode.
Yes.
This thing, like, with this little back room, this little shed where they keep the laundry machine. And, man, it's because, like, there's like 10 different times where you think Michael Myers is going to
come out and get her. This might be my most suspenseful sequence.
It's so because it just keeps
back
going.
And forth to the house.
Yeah, and she's climbing out the window. And so, like, when I was watching this, I didn't know what level like the gore would be too, and
Yes.
I was kind of like bracing myself for that, and so all that through that first sequence where you're seeing it from Michael's point of view, and he goes up into the house and then kills his sister. Like when he started stabbing her, it was kind of a relief because it's like, okay, this is actually a little bit tasteful. They're not showing like you just see like 1 second of it, and then you're just kind of seeing the
knife,
kind of like a Hitchcock kind of thing. I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to be okay with this movie. If this is like the level of gore, I can handle this.
It is.
Like, I don't know about the sequels we get further into like where they have to like escalate the stuff, but I'm like, okay, I think I can do this.
Exactly. Like, there really isn't much, if any, gore in this movie. It's all suspenseful, and it's all like worse than you think. It's kind of like when you like Seven, like not you don't really see much gore in.
Yeah,
it's more like in your mind, psychological. Like,
yeah, and it's in the dark, and because like, and a lot of the murders are like strangulations, or like he'll strangle somebody and then kind of like stab them real quick. You know, like have a long, you know, and of course, it's excruciating watching that too, but it's not like viscera
or something.
Yeah, it's something. Sometimes it's like sort of in the dark.
You definitely should watch Halloween 2.
Halloween 2. Okay, that's not John Carpenter. Like he washed his hands of Halloween.
No, so it's John Carpenter didn't direct it, but he kind of like he's like shadow involved in it. Like it's basically the whole crew from this movie, and it takes place like immediately after.
So it's John Carpenter, kind of like George Lucas with Empire Strikes Back or something, where he's not the director, but he's like, but was he the producer?
He was the producer,
okay.
And I think he might have wrote the screenplay, and one of the people that worked on this directed it, but I think he either like he came in and like directed it at the end or something, and there's more gore in that one, but actually the Rick Rosenthal, the director, wanted to keep it more in line with this one.
Yeah.
And the gore apparently was Carpenter's move. He thought that they needed to keep up with the thing, and he's like, I made it kind of like he wishes he didn't put as much gore, but it's really like a nice because it takes place moments after this ends.
That's interesting. Well, because it's kind of like this is like a mythic narrative, and it's the narrative of the boogeyman, and I guess like that's what they would call Michael Myers' character would be the boogeyman.
The boogeyman.
Like, is that like officially what they refer to him as? Or?
Yeah. So like I don't
because like it's like different characters have like their different names. And,
oh yeah. Like he's called the boogeyman. I think the little kid called him boogeyman.
Yeah.
But
and Jamie Lee Curtis calls him the boogeyman. And then Donald Pleasant says, yeah, pretty much. You know.
He in the credits he's billed as the Shape.
The Shape. Okay.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, because that is like he's got this dark jumpsuit, so he is just like a shape with the head, and like the boogeyman, so it is like just the story of the boogeyman. It's this like scary dude that could be hiding in your closet and come out and kill you, and it makes it hard for you to go to sleep because like maybe he's under your bed or whatever, and sort of that it's sort of like there is a resolution at the end, but then it's got the thing that's become typical of slasher movies of like. You still got to watch out. Like, he's still out there. So, like, it's not like resolved. It's resolved enough for a movie, but it's not resolved.
You definitely watch Halloween 2.
Okay, yeah.
Because it takes place at Haddonfield Memorial Hospital.
Okay.
And
I guess don't spoil it too much because I went in so fresh with this that if I'm gonna watch Halloween 2, I'd like to go as fresh because this was one of the best cinematic experiences I've ever had. Like I was, and again,
it's so good.
Just my own history with the genre and stuff kind of primed the pump, kind of made me sort of like the perfect audience for it. But it is like I was blown away. I was
perfect
sort of
movie
carried through the whole thing. I love the credits too. Like, and I love the way they just use the word Halloween because it's like they have the flashback to the past, and then it's like Halloween, and it's like oh shit. Like you've seen movies like that where it's like. Today's the day. This is when the whole thing's going to go down. And then the movie ends and it's got that kind of like cool weird ending and then it's like Halloween, the title. Like I love that too in a movie where like they show you the title and it felt like yes. Like, take a bow, Really good. Like it was a long time coming. Me and this movie had a long, because I remember as a little kid, it was probably when Halloween 2 came out. I remember like watching some daytime. I was just like little and just like watching some daytime TV show. Maybe my mom was watching, I don't know, Merv Griffin or something. And then they had like a little clip of like, Halloween 2 or whatever. And I was just kind of being like, oh, I don't want to see that.
Oh, it's scary.
And it was basically just a clip of like a hallway, and maybe a jack-o'-lantern or something. I don't know,
Halloween 2 was the first thing I saw of Halloween. It was on TV. I had bought Halloween on VHS. I was in the Boy Scouts and we were at the mall having a Pinewood Derby race.
Okay, yeah.
And I decided we went to Suncoast and I bought the Halloween in like this like black clamshell case on VHS from there. And then so my buddy and I were like, what should we get? And we decided we each would get a movie and then we would like watch both movies that we got. So I got Halloween and my buddy got Evil Dead and we traded. We watched them each, like took turns watching.
That's a good pairing. When I was a kid, like Halloween 3 was in heavy rotation on TV. Like,
awesome.
I didn't watch. Like I'd see the commercial or whatever. I didn't watch, and I'd hear about it from other kids and how it was like a departure and stuff. And then like again, it's like these things are in the pop culture. So sometimes you'll like meet somebody who never saw Star Wars or whatever. Yeah. But they kind of have the basic idea of like there's this, there's that.
You pick it up.
And for me with this, it was like. I knew about a guy, like maybe I didn't know it was necessarily this movie, but I knew there was one where like a guy's got like kind of like a ghost outfit and like a pair of like dorky glasses over the top.
Halloween.
And so then when the guy when the couple shows up and like the one guy's got the glasses, I'm like, I'll bet that's the guy.
Yes, I love it, Tom. You were like putting it's all coming together here. Oh, here it is.
Yeah, this is. Annie. Oh man, yeah. And again, like Tarantino did a really good job of reproducing the sort of look and the film stock of this stuff for Death Proof.
I was always joking around like if I was making a movie, I would use equipment and film stock. I try to find like film stock that was available in like from the year. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make a slasher. I want it to look like it came from '85. Yeah. And
they're watching Forbidden Planet, also some classics.
Oh yes,
man, I'd love to get the John Carpenter Forbidden Planet remake.
What?
We got The Thing. He's basically telling, and the comics.
Howard
the kids have the Howard the Duck comic. I mean, I think they probably just grabbed what comics were like on the shelf at that time. But yeah, Howard the Duck's a nice choice.
We'll have to do an episode coming up where there's a new M. Night Shyamalan movie coming out.
Yeah.
And apparently he used lenses and equipment from like 93.
Yeah.
He wanted to give it that like look. And I was like, hey, I had that idea. So like he's on board. He's like, he wants to give like whatever the new film, I can't remember the title of it.
Yeah.
It has Dave Bautista in it.
Okay, cool. Man, I sure hope nothing bad happens to the kids. But like something about the tone or something communicated to me that like the kids were going to be all right. I got a sense that it was like it's these like babysitters that have to look out.
Yeah.
The part that again reminds me of Jaws, where like the sheriff is like, "Oh yeah, somebody broke into the hardware store.
I love it.
They stole a Halloween mask, a couple of knives, and some rope." And when I heard about the rope, I'm like, "Oh shit!" Because like you see him carrying. The girl's body like back into the one babysitter carrying her body like back into the house.
So
I'm like, oh shit, he's
scary.
got plans. He's gonna put together some kind of like terrifying tableau or like do something with these and I'm like, oh no, like I don't want to like what's this rope for,
Dude, I was at the Dollar Tree and I like took a picture of this one aisle. I was joking around that it's like they have a serial killer aisle at Dollar Tree because it was like I gotta find it, but it was like drop cloth, rope, gloves, garbage bags. All this stuff was like in one spot.
Yeah,
I was like,
the Michael
this
Myers
is
starter
disturbing. It's disturbing aisle at Dollar Tree. It was like a hacksaw was in the aisle. I'm like, this is so fucked up.
They even like they go in the Myers house. Like she like drops something off at the Myers house or something.
Yes.
And then you see from the inside, and then you see his silhouette. And you're like, oh God. Shit. And you think like. It's all going to go down at the Myers house, but then it does. It's like kind of like a red herring, and it's kind of cool. Donald Pleasant scares the kids away.
He's like, Lonnie, get your ass away from there.
He's so good. He's so, like I get it now because like I'll hear people talking about this movie, and I get like the whole cult around it because he's fun,
fucking awesome. Like that's another thing. Remember
the sheriff's great. The sheriff in this movie. looks like Paul Lynde.
He's a dead ringer.
Yeah, and it's like the right era. It could have been Paul, but I was like, for a second I was like, but yeah, just picture like the the spoof version. If in the 70s they had done maybe like an airplane version of this, like kind of like Scary Movie, but like 30 years earlier. Oh, what are you doing in my town?
He's like, you're scaring the community.
Yeah, I'll go along with this just in case, but you're on thin ice, brother.
That van, the party wagon.
The van, and then the beers. It looks like they're the beers that you have to get like a can opener.
Oh my god! Or those weird pull tab ones.
And then, and he's wearing he's got the Jeffrey Dahmer look. He got the blue blocker shades and the haircut. It's like she's got to watch out for this guy.
This guy, the real
the Dahmer lookalike.
And those, I think those lapels are like 50 yards apiece. 50 yards. It leaves the van. I always thought he left the van door open.
Hey, I mean, it's all this stuff builds tension. It's like when someone, leaves a door open or leaves like a cigarette, running too long or whatever.
Going back to a previous episode we did here, the sheriff's name is Lee Brackett.
Okay.
And it's a deliberate maneuver.
Yeah, I guess, John Carpenter's like a sci-fi head or something.
Yeah. And then we talked about that Yoblins guy. John Carpenter wanted Christopher Lee or Peter Cushing to play Loomis.
Okay.
But Yoblins suggested, he wanted Donald Pleasance. Mm-hmm. He's like, you gotta cast him. And then he's like, you're right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like, man, it's so cool seeing this like snapshot of this town in the 70s and what a living room looks like. Like that's kind of like when I was watching like Poltergeist and stuff like that. It was just kind of cool seeing like, oh yeah, that's what like a kid's room looked like when I was a kid. Like I remember that kind of stuff.
The Poltergeist, I was just thinking about that. That's some cozy cozy shit right there.
Yeah, because
it's lived in.
It's kind of like these like the Spielberg era, this like sort of like late 70s kind of early 80s kind of thing. They're like they take place in suburbia.
Yeah.
It's like very.
What was that book that Craig T. Nelson is reading in Poltergeist?
Right, yeah,
I can't remember.
I
was wanting to pick that up. He's smoking that little J with a little bear tweezer.
It is like, man, like all this stuff's happening in that house across the street. It's oh my god.
Oh yeah, whenever the kid looks out the window and sees Michael Myers, that was always one of my nightmares.
Yeah.
Like I was like praying I wouldn't look out and see like a slasher out there.
Shape. Yeah, the shape communicates really well from a distance, like his shape and the mask, and like Jamie Lee Curtis, like again, like I know she's in the newest one, so like I know she gets out okay, but like I could imagine watching this and it's like it's Janet Leigh's daughter. You're gonna assume she's gonna be the third one to go. Like she's toast. Like every single babysitter's gonna get killed by this unstoppable guy. And the way she's able to stand up to him is like really good. And it's minimal. There's not some big duking it out or something. It is just minimal. It's like
she fires an ICBM at Michael.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like she goes into like if this movie were made like now or like in the 80s or something. It's like she goes into like the dad's tool shed and there's like a whole arsenal in there that she comes out.
Well, wait till you see.
That's coming up.
Just wait and see.
Well, yeah, because you think about, and we talk about like with Alien to Aliens and stuff. You sort of go to like the sort of like fully militarized 80s. Where the 70s it's like just your average guy, and then the 80s it's like everybody's all Ramboed up. Yeah, so I could see that happening with this series too.
And also, like it's just like Jaws. We've got Halloween. Yeah. So any other Halloween movie you get, people gotta roll with it.
Right.
Like I'm glad they're making more. It's like great. Like
you're doing pretty good.
Like Laurie has died in the series.
Okay, yeah.
And she's back. Donald Pleasance has died in the series and returned. Mm-hmm. Like, just it's like what what do you got to complain about at this point?
A multiverse. There was like a producer who kind of had this idea and pitched it to Michael Myers. I pitched it to John Carpenter. And that's like another thing I've been kind of fascinated with lately is how like all of these masterpieces, these things that I love, they're not like passion projects that somebody had been building up their whole life or whatever. They're all assignments. Like The Godfather was an assignment given
Jaws.
Jaws was an assignment. This Halloween was an assignment. It's like, okay, and you hand it to like a talented filmmaker and it's like, what can I do with this assignment? And then they kick into high gear and create a masterpiece. So it was assigned to John Carpenter, and that John Carpenter had conversations with the director of a movie called Black Christmas.
Yes,
there was a movie called Black Christmas. It was like an early slasher movie. Predates this, like 1974 or something.
It does.
And that
Bob Clark.
Yeah, and it was about like a guy who was like killing people on Christmas, this psycho, and that he talked to this guy, and he said like, what would you have done for a sequel? And he said, I would have had the guy bust out of the asylum, and it would take place on Halloween, and he'd start killing people on Halloween, and I'd call the movie Halloween. The sequel to Black Christmas is Halloween. Yeah.
Yes, because that's like a that had been floated out there for a while, and like the director had Bob Clark was like, I think he did some Q&A where he like cleared the air on that, but that was like a people were like, that was kind of like the word on the street.
Well, yeah, and he had sort of, like you said, cleared the air. He was kind of like, hey, I'm not salty about that. Like, that's fine. It's fine. But it did make me think of like how in the early days of like IBM PC clones, when you'd have like the Compaq or something, it was like the beginning of like third parties making computers that were compatible with the IBM PC. I remember like part of the process was they in order to shield themselves legally, what they would do is they wouldn't present the engineers with like schematics or anything.
Yeah.
They'd say, we want a computer that can do this, 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 and this. And so then these engineers who were a third party who did not have access to like the schematics of an IBM PC would create a computer that could do those things. And that insulated the company legally, where they could say, we did not do anything illegal. We didn't copy the mechanics of it. We just, presented these. Like, it kind of gave them an extra layer. And I feel like you could. That's kind of happening here too, where there's like John Carpenter is a couple steps removed. John Carpenter didn't talk to this guy and then go out and produce the Halloween movie. It's like he talked to this guy. And then somebody else came to him who was developing this movie, and then came to him. So it was like there's enough layers, plausible deniability, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, who knows? But it's like kind of.
He's not salty, but you're right. He could have like, Tom. Yeah. I would if I was Bob Clark, I'd be like dying alive.
Well, I mean, I think it's just some people are just like, are just kind of like, just. I don't know, spiritual or whatever, like that way, where they can just kind of let that stuff go and be like, hey, fair's fair. And it's like, hey, when I did Black Christmas, I was doing a riff on Psycho, so I can't complain. And it is so funny because the stuff, like imitations of imitations of imitations, because like, again, watching this, it kind of is making sense to me. It's like, oh yeah, Friday the 13th. There's like this hit movie called Halloween, and then they're like, what day do we make our thing? And it's like, oh, well, Christmas is already taken. Halloween's taken. What can we do? Oh, how about Friday the 13th? People get freaked out on Friday the 13th. So, it's like,
the Irwin Yablans, that producer guy, somehow, once again, somewhere along the line, he should have, he's a multimillionaire, I'm sure now, but he should have more money because he somewhere didn't make the right deal at some point with these rights to this movie. So I don't know if he doesn't have them or like gave them up or like he lost, like he should be like a $100 million
a zillionaire, but instead he's only a billionaire.
Millionaire, but there's his silent partner Mustafa Akkad on this is still involved too. He's just been with it because he was like an investor on it. But Irwin, I think he somebody bought him out or something.
There's like the scene where Michael Myers like kills the guy and kind of stabs and like has him like sort of hanging up by the knife or whatever. Yeah. And he kind of like looks at him and kind of tilts his head and that's an interesting moment. Like it's just a little moment, but it's like kind of like an animal, like kind of like a dog. Looking at, because they don't go into the psychology of Michael Myers. It's just like he's pure evil. Like it's like, well, you're a man of science. Why are you calling him pure evil? I mean, it's kind of like Frank Miller did that like later in Dark Knight Returns regarding the Joker. It's kind of like that one. He's pure evil.
You're
it's
evil.
Like, you're a scientist. How can you talk about somebody like that? And part of the voyeuristic thing of this is sort of like the titillation too, because it's like you got you got the murders, but then you also got like the cheesecake.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's like it's a very commercial combo, and you can almost like connect all kinds of, because it's so sort of open, and you can kind of connect all kinds of dots that you want with this, and of course, like in Psycho, they do connect the dots. At the end, they do connect the dots, and you can see sort of a thing where, and of course, people projected sort of moralistic things onto this, of like, this is hey kids, watch this movie, and this is what happens if you don't wait till you're married.
I remember Carpenter, I think in some like interviews, was like, this the movie is what it is, or he said to like,
and because you don't answer questions, or because it's done with such a deft touch, and so the director's hand is so like perfect, it's like you can like project whatever sort of thing you want to project.
Same with like the Michael Myers mask, like the blank slate.
Yeah, it's a blank slate. Yeah, and the eyes, like you don't see his eyes, and you just see blackness. You just see like,
you're like, I see a Canadian.
You'd see Robert Englund like not as Freddy Krueger, and he just seems like the nicest guy.
Oh, I know.
Ever. Like and the guy, like at least the guy who played Michael Myers in the TV show Love, seemed like just like kind of like a dork, kind of like a fun guy, goofball.
That's so funny that you mentioned Love too, because like I haven't watched it, but the creator of Love, I think one of them is Paul Rust.
Yeah, Paul Rust. He's like the star of the show.
And I remember that he had that podcast. It's like In Myers We Trust with Corley and Russ.
Well, that makes sense, because in the show he's like a huge geek, like for the Halloween series. So like when he meets the guy who played Michael Myers, it's like a dream come true. That's why it's so funny when he like
gets turned off. Of course he would have that's amazing. He had big cast on. Well, like I got onto the they had this, like they covered all the Halloween movies, and then the last one there was like a mailbag, and I mentioned the I made it on to the mailbag.
Okay.
Whenever he it was like I was comparing the Sting that to the Hawaii Bound episode.
You were in the mailbag for Paul Rust's show.
Paul Rust's show.
Yeah, that was your early experience with podcasting or YouTubing. That's some brag. That's a humble brag.
That's a pathetic brag.
The Halloween theme is like so amazing and elemental and pervasive, and we talked about it in our Thing episode of how John Carpenter just comes up with these like simple things that are just so great and like repeat through his movies, but and it's been imitated and countless times. But the thing I was thinking, like sort of a predecessor to it, would be like the theme song to the Bill Bixby Incredible Hulk show.
Yes,
it's kind of got like a thing too where it's like two keys high up on the piano or something. Like listen back to that and compare them. Like I think he was kind of riffing off of that.
That I always think of the sad when he's walking away with his book bag at the end.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's not that. It's like at the beginning when they're showing like him going into the machine that turns him into the Hulk. And yeah, it's got a little bit of like the Halloween theme. Like the Halloween theme, it goes into interesting places too. It does these like slight modulations and kind of like goes into just kind of creeps around.
One of my favorites pieces from the Halloween score is Laurie's theme.
Mm-hmm. John Carpenter described this movie. He said he was doing something like. He wasn't trying to make anything super intellectual. He was just trying to make like a thrill ride. He was trying to make a haunted house, like a haunted house you would go into now or whatever, where you'd go in and people just like say boo and grab you and whatever. And so then it sort of culminates in this scene where Jamie Lee Curtis comes to that house where everybody's been killed, and there's just all these little frights. There's like he sets up this tableau using his sister's headstone, and just every door opens and somebody's in there. Like also the deaths. Like when they die and then their eyes cross or whatever, like it's so freaky, and you don't really see that as much. But I remember as a kid, you'd see that a lot more. Like I guess maybe they thought it was too cheesy, so they don't do it anymore. But like you'd see that where somebody would just like die with their eyes open and their eyes would cross. And like I remember there was like a soap opera that like my babysitter would watch when she'd be over the house, and it was like on CBS. I don't remember the name of it, but there was like an episode where like. They're doing archery, and then the guy like asks his wife to like go fetch the arrow out of there, and then she goes, and then he hits her with
Oh
an
my
arrow,
God.
and then she like turns it, and like her eyes cross, and she dies, and then you realize it was he was just fantasizing about that, but like that stuck with me. Like I was thinking of that watching. If anybody out there knows what show that was, As the World Turns or something. So then there's that like sort of tableau, that little Halloween scare house that he sets up for her, and then he's got like the rake to keep her from getting out. So great. But then, she opens the door, and the one guy's kind of like swinging and stuff. That's super freaky.
Love it. That becomes like a trope in these slashers. Whenever the final person, realizes there's a killer, and they're running away from the killer, all the victims that he's killed like pop out.
Right.
Or like she'll open a door and someone would be stuck to it, or like
she's got to sort of bear witness to like all the horror that's happened in the movie, before she can. Defeat this guy.
One of the best shots here, I love this, where she's running around like.
Again, I just saw a little bit of Scream, so it's like I'm recognizing that kind of stuff. Like I get it. Like people watched this movie, it blew their minds. They became, slasher film fans for life, and then, dissect it and reinvent it and deconstruct it and reconstruct it, and
it's just awesome.
It gets under your skin because it is like. You can relate to all of it, and it's based on like just very elemental fears, that everybody has, and just this idea, like, I mean, I've had dreams like this where like somebody's chasing you, and then you go knock on doors, and like nobody wants to let you in, and
I look at this. It's one of the best. Oh God!
Yeah, he moves really slow, and that's like good too. Like he moves slow, like
look at that.
I mean, perfect symbol of death. Like it's this thing. It's coming for all of us. In most cases. It's coming for you slowly. It's going to take a while, but he's coming, and you can see him. And for some of us, he's going to pop up when you least expect it, and you're toast, But he's coming, and there's nothing that's going to stop him. Every time it looks like Michael Myers is dead, you're like, just stab the body. Like, just keep stabbing him, or cut his head off.
The other trope, of course, that pops up is the leaving the killer before he's finished off.
Yeah, because it's like, boom, okay, he's done. That's it. And it's like, that's not going to be enough. That's not going to be enough. And he's just laying, and it's like, no.
Behind the couch.
Yeah. This movie could have ended with like, Michael Myers is dead, or, or whatever, or he's carted off or whatever. But it is kind of like, we're going for a thrill ride. And like, it's a nice way to end things, is like, he's still out there. Yeah. You've gotten enough of a ride, but like, he's still out there. There's Paul Lynde again driving the police car.
I thought I told you to get lost. You're inciting a riot.
Charles Nelson Riley is like his
co-pilot.
Yeah, he's like riding shotgun with him in the police car.
Can't wait for you to watch Halloween 2. Dean Cundey shot that one too. It has the same luscious film stock, same like cinematography.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd like to give it a little space because I really I enjoyed this so much, and also it's I'm having a hard time sleeping, so I want to
very scary.
There he is, William Shatner. Like there wasn't like one of the scary movies or something where like they knock his mask off and like it's William Shatner underneath. Like that's
probably what. I know National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1. We gotta watch that one.
Yeah, maybe we'll do some of those like spoof, movies.
Yeah, because like I know Tim Curry's in that too. Tim Curry has a great bit in Loaded Weapon 1. He like falls off this ledge and dies, but he's beside like a chalk outline, so he gets up and then lays down in the chalk outline.
This closet scene too, because it's like, this isn't going to sit, but it's like maybe he's going to come in there and it's not, or maybe Donald Pleasance shows up but it's like the thing's so, and she ties up the door, but he's like shaking it, and it's like the whole building is shaking, like and
then that light is swinging around,
oh, man,
and everyone knows what a slatted like closet door is like, so it's like
she gets the Mommy Dearest award for using the coat hanger as a weapon. It's almost like like an adventure game or something, where it's like, okay, you turn the hanger into a stabbing weapon. You stab him in the eye. Okay, he drops his knife. Okay, pick up knife.
Also, that knife is gigantic. Was this Gordon Ramsay's house?
Well, yeah, he got it out of the hardware store. It must be some kind of like fish, like something you decapitate a fish with or something. Back in the 80s, they did have like some crazy text adventures. for like computers and stuff, and they had like Dallas Quest. It was like a Dallas text adventure
Oh
game.
my god.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a Halloween
That'd be
text
cool as
adventure
hell.
out there, from that era. She hasn't seen enough horror movies to know to do that, and I guess that's like the appeal of a movie like Wes Craven's New Nightmare or the Scream series, where it's like, it's a horror movie where the characters have all seen a million horror movies.
I remember Tarantino was always. I did a couple interviews where he mentioned Scream, and he was angry that like he didn't get to like write that kind of movie because he's like. Yeah,
because he's like a slasher head,
Yeah. He wishes. He said he could have taken it to the moon.
Right. Yeah. He did get to do his slasher movie. He got to do
Death
Death Proof and did it with style. And Eli Roth did like a mini tribute to this as one of the trailers in Grindhouse. He did Thanksgiving. Where it's like, okay, what holiday did you do next? Thanksgiving. And it's like that Eli Roth.
That looks so good.
That Thanksgiving trailer, I could vomit from it. I could fucking vomit. Like when I was like so scarred because it's so tightly edited, and it's so, like it's just these little snippets, and it's like so gross and so awful. And like it kind of made me not like Eli Roth. Like when he shows up in movies, I start to get kind of sick because it's like this like Pavlovian reaction to this like vomitous trailer. I mean, again, it was masterful, and it's just I'm not the target audience for that.
Well, you do not want to see the Green Inferno, his Green Inferno movie.
It's like if this is what his trailers are like, I cannot see any of his movies.
There's like
there's the guy, and that does look like the guy. See, when I was watching this the first time, I felt like I got like a split second of his face, but you actually get like a couple seconds of that of his face, and yeah, I think that I'm pretty sure that's the guy that was in Love.
And Nick Castle was, he was basically the shape in this, but I don't know if he got to show his face.
Really? Because I mean that does look like him.
It does.
That does look like the guy. And again, after the flashback to like the 60s, and then which it is kind of funny where like the 60s here would have been like what 2005 now.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like 1978 and then 1963 or 64 it flashes back to.
Yeah.
So it would be like 14 years earlier. So 14 years earlier from here is 2008.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would be like a flashback. Remember what you were doing Halloween 2008?
Wow! Oh my brain's rotting.
Now we're all grown up. That those innocent nostalgic days of doo-wop music in 2008, and now here we are in 2022.
Yeah, the 70s. We've talked about this before too. It's like they're obsessed with like 50s nostalgia and the 70s.
Yeah, and it's not that far back.
I always loved the shots where they, show you all the locales.
Yeah, and the breath, and it's like he's the boogeyman, and the boogeyman never goes away. The boogeyman's always out there, and like it's morning, you're okay, but the sun's gonna go down. Yeah, and then Halloween. Man, what a classic. So it feels like we did almost the whole movie. Like this review's almost the whole length of the movie. So we got
we got over an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, this was our first. But it's like this thing warrants it. It's something like you've loved your whole life, and for me, something I've only watched now and like loved it, like was blown away by it. So yeah,
glad we're.
Yeah, that breath. It's like he's like trying to calm. That's like the meditation technique that he learned at the hospital. All this, that opening scene with the hospital. Holy shit! It's like they get there. It's nighttime, and you just see these like vague figures walking around. In their hospital gowns. Oh my god!
Isn't that creepy?
And you think. When his hands coming in, you're like, this nurse is toast. It's like kind of like they keep you off guard. It's like, okay, she made it. She's okay. She's okay. So this has been the Halloween episode of the Total Recall Show. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and Fantastic Four Grand Design.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli or on Instagram at Tom_Scioli.
Follow me on Instagram at cinema_tomb.
And check out my Patreon to see various comics that I'm working on, including a comic called Secret Super War, where it's the ultimate superhero comic book crossover.
And you can follow the show on Instagram at total_recall_show.
And we'll see you next time.